I guess it was in a reading that I did, and you also had afterwards there was like a YouTube live session. So I guess it's this something similar to that you broadcast to YouTube. Is that how you guys do it?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, and it's being live streamed, so if people happen to tune in, they can see it as it goes along, and as well, Amy Joy will save it and then she'll post it in. Uh-oh.
Okay, so here we go. We have the chat here going. All right. So one thing that I am gonna say, okay, these platforms are sometimes a little unpredictable. So if something happens, I lose contact or whatever, just rest assured that I'm coming right back in. So, continue to work on whatever is that we were on. If I happen to be kicked out of but that's I guess the only thing that I would say in terms of technical issues, if that happens to you too, you log back in and, hopefully we'll be able to continue with the momentum of the workshop. I see that there was, let me see, there is something in the chat here. Amanda, you have a question here, and
Excuse me. I just saw on the Eventbrite page that there were supposed to be materials sent, and I did not get those. If those were sent prior to tonight.
yes, they actually were. Amy, but we're gonna go over all of that. I mean, the idea was to give you some support material so that way we are kind of like in the same wavelength in terms of the workshop. These workshops are only an hour, so we really don't have a lot of time to address a lot of possible questions that are going to surface here in the workshop. So we're going to try to write as much as possible to work on the prompts and so on and so forth. But there is also in the folder, which then Amy is going to resend to everybody who has registered for the workshop. There are links basically to the Poetry Foundation. Is everybody familiar with the Poetry Foundation, right? So since they already have clear copyright issues, is a platform where we can all be saved, and especially me teaching the workshop because it's accessible to everybody, and whatever materials happen to be there, they have already been approved for copyrights and so on and so forth. So this is sort of like kind of like the main, I would say, website that we're going to be using in order to, let's say, access reading material, okay? And then, of course, I'm going to go over what the prompts, based on the theme of the workshop and some of the reading material, will be addressing in the during these 3 sessions that we have. A link to Google Docs should have been included in the email you received with the Zoom link. That's correct. So you can double check, and if not, we'll resend the links. It's not a problem. Okay. Okay. There was a link, but it was access denied by Google
Oh, you
Docs.
may have to have a Google ID to access the documents. leave a note and we'll make sure to get you the information directly to your email. So in the chat, if you
Exactly.
didn't get the stuff, just let us know and we'll send it back out and make sure you get it.
Absolutely. If you guys have any problems with these technical issues, we'll just send the email directly to your inboxes so that way, everybody's in the same wavelength, and you all get the material that we need for the class. Okay. So we're going to take it from there. Whatever issues you're having, we will correct that as we, for the next session. So at the end of this session, we'll be sending, for the ones of you who didn't receive the folder or the link to the folder, rather, we'll send that directly in the body of an email. And then we'll take it from there. So that way, at least you have the material. And then in terms of the reading material, you can access the website on your own without the link. You can go to the Poetry Foundation, and then in the link there are specific in the folder there are specific links there to some of the poets that I wanted to take a look at for the purpose of this workshop. Okay. Now, can we do a little short intro? Jim, do you want to do something? Do you want to do an introduction, or how do you want to
Yeah,
proceed?
I mean, I'm Tim Brown, the co-host of Art in the Basin. You probably were in touch with Amy Joy Roboto, who is the other co-host and the one who organizes all of our events, from the readings to the workshops to, the videos and all the technical stuff. She couldn't be with us tonight. We do bi-weekly, every other Tuesday, reading series at Montemore Coffee and Wine in the Bronx, New York, if you're familiar with New York City. And we are really happy to have Orlando tonight. Anybody want to just kind of go around? Maybe we could hear from Melissa next.
Hello.
Hello.
I am here from, where am I? I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
All right.
And this is my first time. I don't know anything about Art in the Basement, and I saw a link from I think it was Sarah Nichols, who's an editor who I follow, and she sends out her newsletter that gives you writers and readers events. And so I currently am writing memoir, personal essays, flash pieces, micro
Fiction,
nonfiction, things like that.
micro nonfiction.
So yeah, and so by doing, the micros, the 100-word stories, things like that, but they're memoir based. I haven't written poetry since I was probably in middle school. So I figured I'd come and learn more and enhance my skills.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Perfect. How
you.
about, I'm sorry, Amanda, may we hear from you?
Hi, I'm Amanda. I'm in the cornfields of southern Indiana. Literally, there's a cornfield about 100 feet from my apartment right here. And I started writing poetry during the pandemic when everybody was locked up and Zoom kind of became the thing. And I took a bunch of poetry classes on Zoom on Eventbrite. Normally, I write young adult and middle grade novels, fiction. I have a middle grade book that's out on Query right now. I'm trying to sell. So I really enjoy poetry because I love language and playing with language. And so I've been subscribing to all the free poetry a day type things and just reading and writing as much as I can since 2020. That's me.
Awesome.
And Connie?
I'm Connie Taylor. I'm in Anchorage, Alaska. I've been writing poetry for about a year and writing memoir type stories for about 10 years now. And I lead a couple writing memoir classes. And I'm eager to learn more about writing poetry.
And I think you've joined us before.
I may have.
Yeah, so welcome.
Thank you.
And
thank you,
finally, Victoria.
My name is Victoria. I'm in Clareton, PA. It's It's in Edgar Allan Poe, Stephen King type of city. Um, I I've been writing poetry quite some time. I've had quite a lot of success in it. And I'm doing like prose poetry and kind of journaling and seeing what I get.
Awesome. So it looks like everybody's in the right place, in the same wavelength. My name is Orlando Ferrand. I'm a poet, and I'm also a writer, a visual artist. By the way, I'm a farmer as well. I farm here in PA. I am also broadcasting today from PA, not from New York. So I'm in my small farm here today with my family, and I spend a great deal of time here as well, and try to go to New York the least amount of time I can possibly do, and refrain from staying out of New York. And I say this with, from the bottom of my heart. I love New York City, but I'm also reconnecting with something, and this is purpose of the work that we will be doing here in our workshop, which also will be dealing with memories. You were talking about, you guys were talking about the writing poetry, flash fiction, doing work with memory, nonfiction, creative nonfiction, and so on and so forth. And it's kind of like, I think that after years of writing practice, I can say that the creative writing field um, uh, uh, is not only vast, but it's also very interconnected. Like, I personally feel that my relationship with other art forms and even science have also informed my work as a writer, and my work specifically in poetry. I think the poetry, in a way, I mean, the title of the workshop is in um, between the lines, and the idea of this workshop, um, it's a process. It's something that just didn't happen once. It's the process of meditating and writing and experimenting, with creative writing. And I just wanted to put that out there, that I think that one of the most important things, first of all, this is not about big eyes, little U's. I try to, refrain from that type of professorial tone and so on and so forth. I think that when we are among writers, one of the things that we can say is that in reality, there is not a single, let's say, degree, if we are going to talk about access to creative writing, that can really give you the keys to become a good writer. Okay, so having said that, I think it's also important that as we mature as writers, that we become more aware of specificities that have to do with the craft. So in that sense, this workshop is also a study of craft, but in a kind of also organic way, because what we will be doing here is experiment. And I think that we need to all be open to the idea that the fruit of inspiration has nothing to do with inspiration has nothing to do with the process. Inspiration is something that can happen or might not happen in that ideal state of mind or zone that we refer to when we talk about inspiration. But what I do believe in is in obsession, is in uh, uh, the ability of the mind also to to reflect on whatever is that the mind wants to reflect on in our our process, through life. And one of the things that I find in terms of poetry is that what would be, for instance, your idea of poetry? What is your definition of poetry? What does it come to mind when you think of a poem or poetry? Anybody? Can we try to define poetry even in one sentence? What is poetry to each one of us? Yes, Victoria?
For me, it's always ghosts, whether they're fleeting or whether they've been around a lot. So if for me, it's just like whatever won't leave me alone. Like I not necessarily wanted to think about it, but it's kind of lingering. I always go with the lingering, and then I know that like something that this of poetry could possibly come from it.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Amanda.
Well, I know what I like. I like musical language, and I like a poem that when you start reading it and you get to the end, it wants to take you back to the beginning again. So it keeps drawing your interest back into the poem and kind of cycling. That's the kind of poetry I like.
Okay. 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 Melissa, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. One of my all-time favorite books, which is to this day and what got me reading when I was a child, was Shel Silverstein, Where the Sidewalk Ends. And what drew me in is not only the language and some of the musical, like Amanda says, it becomes musical. And initially you're taught that poems rhyme. I mean, when you're little. And so from there, Shell showed you how to tell a story within, a small piece. Some of his pieces were only a matter of 4 or 5 lines, and some of them were pages long. They were all stories. They were all poems. So I think I like the variety. I like the fact that you can do so much with poetry and tell a story in so many different ways.
Absolutely.
I,
Yes, Victoria.
I have something to add. The lingering that I was talking about, it actually causes music in my body.
Okay.
So like somebody rang a bell, like I actually feel it. Like it's weird. So it's kind of like what she was saying, I guess, like that it kind of goes through me and then it just keeps on going through. And then you could say I catch the beat of it at some point, and then something is awakened in me.
All right.
Poetic.
Okay.
Some way. It might be a literary device or something, or some sort of turn of phrase or some sound, the actual sound of a.
Yes. So we all agree that there are, let's say, certain qualities that we look for in poetry, right? We look for musicality. We look for rhythm. We also look for story, for content, or even if it is not a full story, at least something that reveals something important about people, places, and things, right? And I think that one of the things that I also like to do in terms of my work with poetry, I also do a lot of work as a translator, on and off. And it has also helped me look at poetry in a kind of different way. Because you can't really translate a poem, you kind of like almost have to sort of rewrite it, no? Because it's not just about words, it's about all of those things that we're talking about. A lot, it's far more complex, in my opinion, than for instance, narrative, right? Where you have usually from point A to point B, even if you go back or you go further, but there is a sense of continuity that it doesn't happen the same way in poetry. So you know, I always say that poetry is that other way of using language. That other way of using language, because it's sort of like a world of its own. And we definitely use language differently when we are writing creatively, right? No matter how objective or concrete or even specific our stories can be in that sense. I want to share something with you here, which is this is part of the material that was in the folder just to prepare you, and also because I was counting that maybe if you had a chance to look at the material you could bring something today, but it's something that we can do then next class, that you can then bring you know, some material. And also if time permitted, if we have some material that you would like to share, I'm also very open to that, because part of this workshop is going to be that we're going to be working. First of all, we're going to do some brainstorming. I want to start with this. I want to share the screen here. Let me see here. Okay, here. Share screen. Okay. All right. I cannot share screens here. It says that
I would think you could. It doesn't allow you to.
no, it
Uh,
says that the host disable
You
participant
have to
screen
set it.
sharing.
You have to
Oh,
give him permission.
oh, okay. Wow.
Let's see if you can look into that.
Go
Um,
to share screen, advanced options.
share screen.
The little down arrow.
Oh, I gotcha. Yeah, okay.
Okay, perfect.
All participants. Okay. How about that? You want to try it again, Orlando?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes. Let me see what's going on here. Let me see. You know, for some reason, this is not allowing me right now, but
Oh,
let me,
do you want?
it might
Do you
not be
want me
you.
to?
It might just,
I could share the. Is it the handout you want to share?
yes, between the
Because that
lines.
I
You see
could.
it?
I can do. I have that
Yes, yes.
here. I think people should
All
see that
right.
now. Yeah.
Everybody? Yes? Perfect. Okay, so this is the sort of idea that is that serves as the foundation for our workshop today. Poetry is always written and read between the lines, and this idea will serve at the center of gravity for this three-session workshop series, in which you will all learn how to write poems that can take on different forms and convey meaning in unexpected ways. Create blackout poems. We'll deal with that next week, and get inspired by prompts derived, some of them from sample poems, and learn how to give and receive specific feedback tailored to the needs of the poem. For next week, if you're working on some poetry, you can bring it to, you know, the session as well, if you're interested in reading and even receiving some feedback. Can we scroll, Jim? There we go. Perfect. Perfect. This is going to take us to our first activity of the evening. We're going to be brainstorming from memory. Basically, what the idea that I have is that you start with, I will always remember. Okay, this is going to serve as sort of your starting line, I will always remember, is not going to be the line of the poem, but what I would like you to do is to start brainstorming using this phrase. I will always remember. Okay, so I'm gonna explain a little bit about where we want to go with this. Inspiration aside, finding a good idea for a poem means sifting through all memories, all unfresh feelings, and anecdotes. You were talking about, stories before, in search of the ones that will awaken the poet in you. This process can be frustrating at times, since our memories come to us in little fragments and our feelings are oftentimes too vague or mixed up to comprehend, right? So this exercise is designed to help you explore your memories in their fragmented state before deciding whether you, the writer, want to make them whole, recreate them, play with them. As you brainstorm, you don't need to write incomplete sentences. Instead, make a list of words, phrases that describe those memories that you are going to be focusing on or brainstorming about. So in other words, I propose that we find, let's say, 7 memories, it can be less than that, that you feel they are relevant enough for you that you would like to write a poem about. That's the idea, is to start digging into those recesses of the memory. So this is the most difficult part of any kind of process when it comes to terms of creative writing, and in particular poetry, is the brainstorming part of it. And especially when we are working with memories. I was doing this exercise today, and a lot of uncomfortable memories surfaced. I was sharing with Jim today that 2023 was a very sad year for me, because I had a lot of losses. I experienced a lot of personal losses, including my mother, my mentor of 30 years. I mean, it was really, really my best friend. Several things happened there, right? And today, when I was doing this exercise, I realized that there were some of the memories that surfaced that I felt that I could not write about. Okay. And that is okay too. If in the process of brainstorming, you are digging and you find some experiences there that you are not quite comfortable exploring yet, I would say you could challenge yourselves to see how deep and far you can go with the process, but it's also quite okay if there are certain memories that are still too difficult for you to turn into a poem or an impression, because we're not even talking about a full poem yet. We're talking about impressions. We're talking about those memories that have enough sauce to become a story that we're going to tell in the form of poetry. Okay? Is that clear for everybody? So what I would like you to do now is to start brainstorming with that phrase, using that phrase as a point of departure. I will always remember. And I want to see where it takes you. You're going to come up with several ideas or impressions of those memories. Okay. And then you're going to decide which of those memories would be material that you would like to spend some time elaborating on throughout the course of the workshop. Could be more than one. I'm proposing 7. So we can start already writing and finding what it is that I will always remember. Okay. So that's going to be our um, uh, prompt for this evening.
Let me just say one thing. Just want to greet Evelyn, who joined us a few
Oh,
minutes
yes,
ago.
yes.
Hi, Evelyn. And I'll let everybody get.
Let's do about 5 minutes first. 5 minutes of free writing, and try to use that. I will always remember to see where it leads you, so we can start kind of digging and finding some ideas for a poem. if you find that you have one idea or two ideas, you can move on to memories rather. You can move on, or ideas for a poem, working from memory. You can then move on to another idea. You might find something more by exploring other ideas as well, or other memories that come to mind. I gave you 7 just to kind of like get you started. Um, I found in my experience, in my process with this prompt, that I found 7 ideas that are kind of different from one another. So that could be 7 potential poems, or it can be a poem in 7 parts, or it can be, you know what I mean? The sky's the limit with what that could be. But the challenge is that you use, I will always remember to dig deeper into the layers of memory as a form of kind of awakening those ghosts that I believe Victoria was talking about today. So that's kind of like what we are doing here. We're awakening those ghosts that linger in 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 our space, in the space of poetry, in our memories. Have we found any memories? Have you guys have you been able to find any memories that you think could be potential writing material? Let's put it that way. Anybody wants to share?
I'm sorry, did you ask if we found anything?
Yes.
I was just doing where you said the 7 memories. I was basically like, like setting up little film thingies from a film roll. Like I was doing that and just seeing how I could build from what you said, like the words, just seeing if
Yes.
he would come. So I didn't put 7 memories. I did get like 5. I think it's like 5 there.
It doesn't matter. Yes, yes, absolutely. The number doesn't matter. It's the idea of sort of writing in the waves of those, memories as a way of kind of triggering the memories, because memories are very elusive, right? And even feelings are even more so. So, but what I do find in the type of work that I do with poetry, since I work a lot with memories and a lot of it of my work really is based on memory and digging, sifting through those memories, that this puts me in that place where I can sort of do almost like an inventory, like sometimes even like an outline of those fragmented memories. What was it, Melissa? You were talking about. It was you talking about flash nonfiction, short, right? Flash nonfiction is a genre in nonfiction, which is a very very short, super short, micro short story. Okay, so that's kind of like the idea. And I use a lot of that sometimes to even write my find the source for some of my poetry. So play with that, where those I will always remember will land you, right? And you don't have to be writing the poem yet. What I want you to do is to see if you can land in some of those memories that can trigger even more memories, if you wish, or feelings and emotions about those memories or revolving around those memories as you go. And you might find that it might not be the memory that you thought it was going to be, that can take you somewhere else.
I have a few here. I
You
just
want to share?
I did exactly what you said. So the memory that I chose was the walks. Um, Something that me and my husband did a lot of, we're just getting back into again. So I just said I got landmark history. So I said discussing the landmark history and giving our opinions of the rules. The need to talk about it during the walks. So I got the need to talk. And then I got stones, and then I got the slow and close stone inspections. I got creek, and then I got the word following the creek, because we were at a creek. We ended up at a creek all the time. Like we always stopped at the creek, and then we would follow the creek. And the next stanza, I got tunes, and then I got carefully selected tunes, not everyone pleasant to hear to both of us or at the start. So I didn't like the same tunes he liked, and I didn't always think they were pleasant to hear at the start. Sometimes I think he didn't either, but he just played them anyway until he started to like them. Well, I can add that line. And the next one, I got drinks. So he always brought drinks, and I got drinks cold. You remembered mine, got them too. That's all.
All right. All right. So yes, so you're in the right place. That's kind of precisely the idea, is to awaken your memories of things that even if you think they are not significant, they are there, and they might become significant as you continue to brainstorm. So that's what we are doing here. We are searching for some ideas.
Well, this is good for me because I normally don't do this approach. I normally don't.
Nobody does. That's
This
why
is
we are usually we don't do this approach. We just wait for the inspiration to, like,
yeah.
fall upon us, or we read a lot. Let's say a writer that we fall in love with. In my case, was the French writer Marguerite Yourcenar, and she wasn't a poet, but she's just this fabulous writer that writes in this almost what is the style that I want to say? Magic realism, right? Almost in this magic realistic style that is so evocative. So I have an obsession with her. So I've been reading her work, and then I wanted to write like her, and then I realized that, well, I can, because we're different. I'm also writing from the perspective, I guess, of a man, and it makes it quite different, right? But the themes that then she was using in her work, right? So became an obsession for me. And then I started to do some research on some of those themes to see where that would take me, right? So,
I found this
sometimes,
intimidating. I found
sometimes,
this for me intimidating.
right,
And
right.
I also felt like some of these words, way my mind work, I probably wouldn't have got them right away if I hadn't used this format.
Well, the
Because
idea
I looked at those memories before, and I did not see this stuff before.
that's what this process is supposed to create. It's to
Okay.
take you into a place that is not usually that it is the road less traveled, let's put it that way, in a kind of way, right? So we are summoning somehow those ghosts to see what they bring us, you know, so we can then gather some of that whisper and play with it, right? So that's kind of like the idea. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take this home and you are going to continue to explore some of those memories in their fragmented state, but also play with it and see if you can actually write. Don't get too crazy, but if you can actually write several poems that revolve around each of those memories, that's the idea. That we start, and you're gonna see. I mean, when I was doing my inventory, I call it an inventory in a way, right? Today, opening the Pandora's box, I had no idea that I was going to land in some of those memories I landed today. You know, so I have 7 memories there in their fragmented state. Some of them are just very, I'll read a few to you so you kind of like have an idea what I'm talking about in that sense. But you got the idea, and this is precisely the point of this exercise is that instead of relying on the inspiration or the feeling, it's very easy for poets to write when you are in a certain feeling a certain way. You're, you know, feeling isolated, detached from the rest of the world, depressed, or overly happy. I mean, right? So those you have that feeling of joy, and you need to write about it. It's kind of almost too easy to do that. It's a little more difficult to do a more, let's say, aware, have a more aware point of departure. That doesn't mean that you're not going to get lost. You will get lost, and it's lovely if you do get
But
lost in that process.
I felt like this was having me face memories that I've been avoiding facing, but I really did. Like it almost like a part of my subconsciousness had been waiting for me to get there. Like to maybe pick them. And it was like, I needed this exercise because some of these I didn't even remember. Or
Okay.
I did, but just wasn't, I don't know. It's like
But you can't remember really this. You can't remember the things unless you know, I mean, the way memory works, right? This is like a whole different topic. But you know how memory works. The things come to you when you least expect it. Things come to you. Sometimes it's the sound of something. Sometimes somebody says something in your family. Sometimes you see a color and something pops up, right? So this basically what it does for you as a writer is that it puts you into a place where you're also forced to kind of look at some of these memories and ideas that are there waiting to be rediscovered somehow, you know. So that's the idea, that you also work with material that is relevant to you, instead of me giving you a prompt that I could write a poem about your first love, right? I mean, right, we can write poems about, but I'm telling you, write a poem about first love. I'm not telling you to go and see what it is. Is that first love good enough that you still remember it? Or, you know, I mean, so that can be, maybe you land on that memory of your first love, but it doesn't have to be. It can be something completely different. and that you, in that brainstorming process, discover or rediscover rather as many ideas as possible that are kind of worth exploring to move a little deeper into the essence of, you know, those very ideas, so we can actually recreate them and write, create poems based on those ideas that come from those memories, that you are sort of trying to piece together right now are also triggering feelings and emotions and so on and so forth. So it's sort of like coming from the awareness into the subconscious. That's kind of like the idea. And what I suggest is that when you are by yourself in the company of your own, that you continue to do this exercise and see how far and deep you can go. And for next class, what I'm expecting is that whatever material you want to bring to the class because you want feedback, but that you also bring at least 2 poems that have been inspired by those ideas that you found through this process. Okay, so that's kind of like the idea behind. Anybody else wants to share any ideas that you found or fragmented memories that could possibly become poems? When I say poems, I'm also talking about narrative poetry. It can be a story that you tell in the form of poetry. One of we run a small publishing press, and publishing house, an independent one, and we have a writer on board that wrote a book. It's a memoir, but it's a memoir in poetic form. And it was amazing because I don't think that, we are used to reading memoirs in poetic form, even though poetry oftentimes reveals a lot of our own, firsthand experiences. So, so the sky's the limit for where this type of exercise, and we're going to do other things that are not in this that will bring you into a different way of working as well. So this is just one to start today, so you can start generating some ideas when you go home that you could continue to work on, because those are your ideas and you will be interested in enough in those ideas to continue to explore them, because they are yours and because they mean something for you. And part of the process of a writer is finding finding your voice. And how do you find, we always talk about that, but how do you find your voice? You find your voice by landing on content that is important to you. Nobody else is going to tell your story. It has to be you. So this is where I'm trying to push toward. Okay. Anybody else would like to share some of the ideas that you found, or even if it is just mention them, or?
I can just maybe add, I thought this was a great, useful exercise. I mean, just the number of memories that we were asked to think up and then write something short, brainstorming about them. I found it was very useful. At first I was very intimidated by, geez, seven? How am I going to think up seven random things, you know? But once I did the first one, the other ones sort of came, and they are totally random and unrelated, but yeah, each one has its own sort of focus that probably could grow a poem from it, you know?
That's the idea. That's exactly the idea. Do you want to share any of those in particular? Any of the ideas that you, or memories or fragmented memories that you found, or?
Yeah, I don't know.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll pass for now, but
Pass on that.
yeah.
Perfect. That is fine. That is fine. Someone, anybody else wanna?
Oh, well,
Yes. Yes,
I'll share
Amanda.
two. I ended up with a lot, and one I really like, but I'm gonna wait on that one and try to write a poem on it. But then two that I came up with, the last time my father recognized me when he didn't ask me who I was or confuse me with a doctor, and the time that I used Chat GPT and ask it to talk in the voice of my dad, and how what a disaster that was. So I think both of those could be poems when I'm ready to tackle those with language.
I love that very much. I think that definitely you are in the right wavelength there, and you don't have to share. You know, you can just do what Amanda did. Just where did it land you? Okay, so you know, I found this. You don't have to be too specific. This is just the brainstorming part of the workshop. And I think that once you really dive into and just let it go, you're gonna be able to find even more memories, that some of these memories can take you into other memories as well. And something that maybe you didn't think about, now you start thinking about it, you know? So that's sort of like the idea. And I want you also to write something that ultimately is very personal and that only you could write about. That's how personal that is, right? Apropos of poetry. I mean, that's what poetry is sort of from the essence is supposed to do, right? Let me share with you a couple of one memory. For instance, I did the exercise. I landed into like 7 different memories, and they're fermented. I will always remember the image I have of my father coughing with COVID, the smell of hospital, the smell of death. Those are just, you know, fragments of that. That's a poem that I haven't written yet, that I've been avoiding to write that poem for 2 years since my father passed. But I feel that I need to write that poem. Okay, so this is one of my memories.
I'm sorry to hear that. I had COVID twice. I just had got over COVID. First time I almost didn't make it.
Yes,
Almost didn't make it. I had to be on that vaccine pill.
yes.
I was bedridden for about like 7 weeks.
You know, and this is another thing
Sorry
too.
about
We
that.
are coming out of this pandemic as well, so I'm sure that you had a lot of time to do some serious thinking about a lot of things, about the meaning of life, about how you want to spend your life. I mean, it definitely put me in a place where I realized that I wanted to be in rural America, that I want to go back to some of my roots, because there were many generations of farmers and in my family, and then that was sort of like truncated because the new generations didn't want to do that, and then I'm farming for other different reasons that have nothing to do with anything but my own, right? So you know, so we had a lot of time during COVID to do some thinking about things that really matter, you know. And this is also the idea behind this exercise, is that we tap into some memories that are too good to avoid, okay? Meaning there is a lot of material in there that can be explored, Okay. And another one, for instance, that I discovered was, okay, no, this is related still to the father. But then I started to remember he talked fast, minimizing everything. That was my father. Oh no, it's nothing. I'm fine. I'm gonna be fine. That was the last time we saw him, you know. So, but then I remembered that, like how he was minimizing everything. His eyes looked sad. I remembered that. Um, um, and I also remember how he kind of like became a child. Somehow we had a video call. That's what happened when Dad went into the hospital. And my sister sort of like felt that that was a send-off, that this was probably going to be the last time. And she had all the grandchildren, I mean, all her children, my dad's grandchildren in that call, you know. So it was the last time we saw him, you know. So all these memories and the laughter of the you know, they are 3, 4, and 5 year old, the grandchildren, and he was making faces and they were laughing in the midst of this tragedy. Okay, so yes, so there are a lot of memories there that I can explore to write that poem about the last image I have of my father, the last time we saw him. Okay, so that's how personal this is, and that's how personal I want you to be as well. Um, allowing yourself, you know, have a lot of love and patience with yourself when you're doing this type of work, because this is not a type of work that we do to impress anybody. This is a type of work that we do to sort of create an alignment between us and the richness of the lives we've lived so far, and how much of that richness will be lost if we don't catch it and do something with it. That's sort of the idea. Everybody's like thinking, like deep, deep thinking. Um, we're almost we're out of time. Jim?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, we probably ought to wind things up. It's been an hour. Do join us, everybody, next week, a week from today, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. I believe it's the same Zoom meeting ID and password and so forth.
Yes.
I have, it looks like, oop, sorry, I'm opening up something else. Looks like I have 3 email addresses from Amanda, Connie, and Melissa. Anybody else need the materials for the workshop? We'll make sure to email those out directly to you. Oh, okay. Victoria, could you maybe put your email in the chat? And then I'll make sure to copy it down and we'll send those out.
You're gonna
And
see some links there, like I mentioned to you before, to the Poetry Foundation, and then to another website that it's not, it's a website on poetic devices and literary terms. I just wanted to take a look at it, um, refresh, you know, maybe your intuitive notion of what those are as well, right? And for next class, and also for you for you to kind of become more aware of the fact that there are a lot of literary resources available and devices that you can then utilize to embellish, to polish, to rewrite your poems. So that's kind of like, you know, the idea. So it's an interesting selection of Sappho poetry, Sappho, the Greek poet, the fragments that they have found of her work. Anne Sexton and Russell Edson. Russell Edson, right? The poet. So those, or the other way around, Russell Edson. Anyway, so that poet, the link is there as well. And these are very different forms of approaching different themes in poetry as well. So it's going to be interesting for you to look at this, you know, at the poetry of these very different poets that have nothing to do with one another also. Okay, so continue to work on this for next class. See if you can bring some material. Hopefully, this exercise will help you, you know, find those unexpected stories and fragmented memories that, you know, you could then use to write, you know, more poems that are really meaningful to you, and that are coming out of that need to also rescue your own memories from oblivion. You know, so that's kind of like how I'm looking at this exercise, and that I hope that this can be a point of departure for the next beautiful poems that you're gonna write. So that's the idea.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Orlando. We look forward to next week and look forward to seeing you all next week. Tell all your friends, more the merrier. It's not like a, you know, sort of a class that you're required to, you know, we're not taking attendance and you're you know, required to be at every session, but we'd love for you to be at every session. But anyway, I will stop the live stream.